Hello, greetings, welcome everyone. My name is Brendan and this is DevChatter. And today we are going to be working on our chatbot that we have been building for a little while. Now, before everyone runs away and says, wait a minute, I've seen chatbots before. Yes, we've done chatbots before. We've done like 4 chatbots on this stream for different reasons and, like scales, things like that. This is a different thing. So first off, this is a C# and .NET Core chatbot running in WPF. Plan would be to use the cross-platform UI MAUI when it becomes available from Microsoft. It does not exist yet, but we will be switching to that when it comes out. In addition to that, other interesting point on this bot, it is not intended to just be a bot for this channel. It is intended to be a very modular and versatile bot, and I will tell you what I mean by that. So, in the bot right now, we have a couple of screens, we'll say. This one is a chat screen that isn't wired up to chat yet, but it will be eventually. So if I type in hello world, it puts that up there. And so you can see we have this nice little spot where chat is going to appear. So if you have the bot connected, it'll, put chat messages in here so that you can interact with them. You could send out messages as either yourself or as your bot. So you essentially have chat access if you do need to actually send something as the bot while you're streaming. Additionally, we also have this plugins screen. Now, the plugins screen is super important, and here's why. So we are currently working on wiring this up, so this is just fake data that's in here. The task we're working on today is wiring up plugins. Now you say, if this is plugin based, how can you only now be wiring up plugins? Well, we've been building to this point. We needed the basic infrastructure of a bot, which we sort of have, basic UI and everything like that. We have a number of unwired up features, open source projects. So if you are interested in learning about how to build these things and do want to dig into the code and send us a PR, you are welcome to. And I will make sure that there is a link to that in the chat, which is over there. That is a link to our general GitHub, and you can just find the Chatterbot project in there to find this one. Okay, so I said it's super modular. These are basic commands. So if I connect this chatbot, all of these commands sort of work. So when you type in the command here on the left, it will respond with the thing on the right. Now we're going to add more advancement to how these commands work, the complexity of them, so you can add like aliases so that one command could have more than one answer. We're going to wire up variables for them so that there are automatic replacements of different values. So for example, this one that says huge shout out to arg1 and has name1 in the variables here, we're going to add replacements for that, and permissions and all kinds of fun stuff is going to get built into this. However, how is that modular, you might ask? Well, the commands module is literally not going to be required. That in itself is going to be a plugin, a module. So, the example that I gave in our last stream about why someone might replace the commands module is maybe someone else builds one that handles multilingual scenarios better than ours. So I know a few streamers that stream in both English and German, for example. And they might want some of their commands to be able to work in like English or in German. And so you could do that by aliasing, but if someone made one that actually was multilingual, you might have a way for it to, if you did the, one command, it responds in the correct language. I don't know exactly how you'd want to build that. I could think of a few ways, but someone might want to build one that's focused like that. Whereas that type of optimization, optimizing for multilingual, might not be the thing that every streamer wants. So hence, you can choose which commands module you want to have included. So the intention is choice. Additionally, we want to build it so basically every feature we build for this is going to be a module that could be replaced with either an alternate or a different version. So at the end of the day, if people don't like the way that I did the commands, cool, make your own commands. You can go do that. It shouldn't be difficult. So we're figuring out that structure today. Welcome, Ruben. And Grizzly Guru, thank you very much for that follow. Much appreciated. I will assume that means that this sounds like an interesting project to you. Okay, let's jump into where we were well, before I do that, let me run it just so you can see that it does work. So I will pull up the accounts window. I've already got my OAuth token, so I don't need to click those, and I'm just going to click connect. And then that, as long as I haven't broken anything, should bring the bot into chat. It did. And we have a ping command, which it says it should respond with Pong. Here we go, ping, and it says Pong. So excellent. That did what we expected, and we have Ted C# loves Java. Excellent. Looks like it is working. Okay. With that being said, I am going to kill that bot, because we don't need that one running. We have our old chat bot still running in the project. Okay. So what we are working on is this. We were in the middle of some changes when the last stream ended, so we're going to pick right back up where we left off. We were working on this set here. So inside of our app XAML CS, which is the basically entry point into a WPF application, it's not like a program CS with a static main. It instead, because it's a UI application, has a different entry point. So let's go ahead and take a look at that entry point. Right in here in app XAML CS. And we added a stack of to-dos. Now, we also said we wanted to move this out of out of this spot. We don't want it in app XAML CS. We just need to create the structure for it to go somewhere else. So I always believe in there's a process in software development that I encourage basically everyone to do, and that is start off by making something work and then make it right. Don't try to get the architecture perfect. Don't try to remove duplication before you have it. Don't do any of that. Step one, copy paste, or in this case, step one, just put it where it's easiest to put it, and then move it to the right place. Because if you worry too much about finding the right spot for it before you've created it, you sometimes add too much structure, too much, you over-engineer the solution, as it were. Greetings, Simon, welcome. Okay, so I thought it would be a good idea to have a class whose responsibility it is to initialize all of the plugin information in the system. So I created a plugin initialization class. It has a plugin initialization interface, and actually plugin initialization is going to be internal. And the reason why we are doing internal classes on this is because we're wiring up everything with a dependency injection. So we have inverted our dependencies, and this interface, if we take a look at where it is inside of our domain project, as is our class for now. A case could be made to move it somewhere else, but I'm keeping them together right now because I don't know that the plugin initialization needs to go higher, as this feels like the domain of the application is plugins. And nothing else should need access to the plugin initialization, I don't think. We'll decide on if we get to a point where it does need to move, we can move it. That's one of the great things about code, is like if you find you need to do it that way, do it. Okay, so inside of our dependency injection extensions, I have already added the plugin initialization. I created it as a singleton, but I could technically do it as a transient, but it should only ever get created once, so I guess I will add a transient on it. So we'll do that. It only needs to get made once. Plugin initialization is plugin initialization. I don't know why it kept wanting to delete that, but it did. Okay. So that, since it's only going to run once, I can transient it and it'll forget about it. Okay, so I moved our to-dos into this method. So this is the set of to-dos, basically what we're thinking for how we initialize plugins. Let me show you that screen again. Step one is we go to our database and we look to see what plugin information we already have stored in the database. So that's step one, is look to see, do we have any information about plugins? Step two is going to be look in the folder that we have in the file system for storing plugins to see what stuff is there. We are then going to see, we're going to do the cross on it, and we're going to find out any plugins that are in the folder that we don't have information for, we will create a new plugin information object for that unknown plugin, filling in the basics for it. So any metadata that we could pull from the plugin package itself, which hopefully is something that will get working nicely. For now, we're just going to default it to like unknown plugin and like the path name of it. And maybe we'll fill in the name as whatever the path is, which is not fantastic metadata, but it's not the worst metadata. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look for any plugin information that we have. So if we have a record in the table and we don't see the folder in the file system for it, then we're going to have to indicate in some way that that plugin is missing. So we can't find it right now. So maybe they deleted it from their folder, and that might tell us they should probably delete that row from our database if they've intentionally uninstalled it. But it could just be a mistake, and then it's good to let them know that the reason why they don't have that plugin loaded is we can't find it in the file system. So either way, it's good information for them. The last thing is, when it is missing, we're going to need to make sure that that we don't try to run it or do anything. Like, we need to leave it available, I think is the idea, until they delete it. So we have a couple of things that we're going to have to figure out. So let's get started. Okay, and I just pulled that up so you could see the screen while we were working on it. So you could see what it essentially is. Okay, so let's run this instead of what we were running in AppXAML for now. So when we initialize plugins, did I call this yet? We need to do that before we initialize those. So initializing the plugins needs to come early in the process, and the reason why is initializing plugins needs to happen before we do the menus and the message handlers, because the plugins are what are going to need to get into the menus and to get into the messages. So when we start up, plugins need to be initialized right away. I think. Or we could have them add themselves after the fact. We can initialize the menus and then put them in, and they would just add themselves. It's a good question. It may not matter. And that runs that. Okay. Well, I'll figure it out in a minute. We'll figure out that structure. I just want to make sure it gets called. So, most important thing is that it actually gets called. plugin initialization. So we need to have plugin initialization as the type that we've got here. And then I think this is actually just going to call it. So we've shrunken this down to basically doing nothing. So there it is. So what's nice about that is that I wrote in here a to-do, move this to the domain project, which is essentially what I've just done. So I moved all the logic, even this, just out into the domain project by putting it here. So this is just a wrapper around, plugin initialization, initialize. Just trying to get the logic out of there so that we're not doing anything with it. Okay. So let's go have a look at our initialization then. So we should be calling this at startup. So in our DI, I have asked for the data store. I made a new interface for reading the directory, and this is, so these sets that we have, the plugin set, that is like the current state of the application. I wanted to make some classes that would keep track of the current set of commands that are supposed to be able to get run, the current set of menus that are supposed to be displayed. This is going to be what plugins are currently turned on, like what's the state of the system essentially. I want to have some objects that other parts of the system can access to just sort of say like, hey, what's going on with the system? Like, I need to add something to the commands, so can you give me that set and I'll add one? And so that's sort of the idea, is like you need some kind of interface to allow you to affect what the state of the system is. So if something wants to add a new command, it can. If something wants to add a new tab in the menus, you can. So that's the way this works. So this is what's tracking our plugins and allows you to add new plugins. So that's why plugin initialization obviously is to initialize the plugins, because any plugin that we have turned on needs to automatically start up when you start the bot. What's your reasoning for your namespace and the project structure? I haven't seen domain and infrastructure keywords being used before. Helpful stranger. We are using a structure that is called clean architecture. You may have also seen, there are many alternate words for it and similar designs. So there is hexagonal architecture, there's ports and adapters, and there's onion architecture. Those are essentially the parent of the clean architecture style. Essentially, the idea is that we want to have a core set of abstractions. Those are here in our Chatterbot project. This is the core set of abstractions that if you're writing something for this bot, you will need access. You might want access to. We don't have it fully put in all the right places everywhere, I don't think yet, but we're pretty close to that. So that's like the core stuff. The word domain in this case means like the domain of the application, like what's in its domain. And for that, the domain of our application is a modular chatbot for Twitch. We're saying for Twitch right now, but someone could change this later on so that it could work off of Twitch and on, say, Discord or something else. But the domain is kind of like whatever you're about is kind of the idea. So if you've heard of domain-driven design, that's that same word. So these two essentially make up what we would call the core of the application. Welcome, Pommon, welcome, Dumpster, and welcome, Helpful Stranger and Fuel Snable. Welcome, greetings. You usually go with a big ball of mud. A lot of people do a Fuel Snable. Domain could also be called the core, I think. Yes, Pommon, yes. So these two together is what would be in the core of a lot of people's applications. Infra, in this case, I don't mean like infra like, in the words like infrared. That's just a shortened version that I use for the word infrastructure. So infra is infrastructure. And essentially the idea is anytime I access something so if you look at the clean architecture project, like what Helpful Stranger said there, any of the clean architecture project templates will have a project called infrastructure. And a lot of times the infrastructure project is they'll have one, and it will have the database, the file system, every kind of infrastructure that you might be communicating with, and it's essentially that's the dependencies that you're trying to avoid being too tightly coupled to, especially if you want to unit test any of your code. And so I don't do just one project for infrastructure. I break them up. And the reason that I do that is it helps to keep me and every other developer honest. The idea is that if I could make a class that accesses both the database and the file system in the same method, that's probably bad, because then I've sort of tied them together. So I've tied that file system and that database together. It makes it both hard to change them and also run some other risks when we're working on that. You may choose that there is a reason to cross dependencies. If you're going to do that, we do technically have a base infrastructure project that you'll notice has nothing in it, but this project would get any of those types of dependencies where you really had a good reason to cross. So this one, I like separating them out. So anything that does a connection to Twitch is here. Anything that does a connection to the database is here. And I will probably have a separate one for the file system. The reason why is I'm not going to get so many projects that there are like performance degradation and issues like that. We're only going to have like a dozen projects, probably tops, not including plugins, which will get loaded differently. That'll be like runtime dependencies essentially rather than compile time dependencies. But by separating them this way, I make it harder for us to write bad code. So essentially it's putting barriers in the way to just make it so that you are forced into the right structure is kind of the idea. Makes it hard to make messes. Okay, so a lot of the clean architecture patterns lump domain implementations with domain definitions. This separates it out. Yep, that is true. Big ball of mud is the end state of all evolving architectures anyway, so why not start there? Fuel Snibble, you're not wrong. A lot of projects do end up as a big ball of mud. Someone else usually start with a big ball of mud and then try to split it up. Yes, so Common, that is actually, funny enough, what I recommend. I recommend you start with a small ball of mud, not a big ball of mud, a small one. Look at what you've got, break out the pieces. So you can also just start with a template like this. So if you start with a project template like this, you can start with a little bit of a clean architecture. These do exist. So you can start with one of these and just kind of fit into it. But don't feel like you have to get everything right immediately. So a lot of times it's good to just start a project, start putting stuff together, and then pull it into a structure, and then try to keep that structure as well as you can. Should the directory reader not be in infrastructure? Yes. Yeah, so Simon, it could just be in the infrastructure project because we're probably not going to run this on we're not going to change that out. So I made one for Light database because, well, I should say LightDB, because it's possible that someone's going to say we should change off LightDB, so it definitely needs its own. But you're right, the infrastructure project could get the file system one. It might be overkill to give it its own because we are going to have so little stuff that does file system access. Yeah, so Helpful Stranger, it's the words that you're going to use for it. So this aligns fairly closely with clean architecture, so you will see it around. This and things similar to it, I should say. And related to the question that Simon had, which is where the implementation of the directory reader is, if I go ahead and say... try to go to definitions, you'll see it says, that's really tiny text, so I'll just read it for you. It says, derived types of iDirectory reader were not found. So I haven't written the implementation yet, so there is no iDirectory reader yet. So when we try to run this code, we're going to get an exception right now because I told it to resolve this, and it's going to say that it doesn't know what to give me for an iDirectory reader, because it doesn't exist. So we will write that, though. The answer to something is in my head. Yeah. There are things that are definitely still just in my head. Not checking for null in the constructors. Plummen. So first off, the couple of things here. So funny thing, Simon, if we're running unit tests, it may not fail yet because we would mock out these bits. So it just won't, we wouldn't be able to do, well, yeah, I guess that depends on what the DI check will fail. You're right. Yes. The DI check will fail. Yep. That one will fail. The test of this code would not fail, though, which is what we're going to do first. And Paman, to answer your question, we, unless we missed a project, should have nullable reference types, the feature turned on, which means that unless we explicitly say that something can be null, it should not ever be null. So we're skipping a lot of null checks because we have turned on the feature where the compiler is supposed to be watching for those and make sure that we don't get nullables. So that doesn't mean we're totally safe from null reference exceptions because some code is not using that. So like when we depend on a third-party library that does not have that same feature turned on, those we're not safe from. Yes, exactly what Simon's mentioning, except for the things outside of our app domain. That's why we're kind of safe and kind of not. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some tests on how this works so we can basically turn these to-dos into tests. So let's figure out where they're going. So this is going to be domain, and where did I put this in domain? Anywhere? Oh, wow, I put this in the wrong place because I was just like moving stuff around. That's supposed to be there. Domain plugins. Does that mean that I messed it up in this one as well? Is this where it got messed up? This is where it got messed up. See? That's what I get for not looking at those. Okay. So we want to do this. So this is domain plugins. Folder plugins. Oh, and what do I do for the other ones? No, that one's weird. So I'm going to do a class that is plugin initialization should. That'll be our class name, and then fact public void do something given something. I always recommend whenever you're writing something and you haven't figured out what you're doing yet, don't sit there and try to figure out what the name is. Just put in a name, because it's easier to figure out what the name is once you've written some of the code. So right now I can just say I know that I want to create a plugin initialization object, which I can't technically get yet because it's the interface actually. So I don't want one of those. I want to get the service that is one of those. So I need a service collection, which I'm just going to steal that. And then I need to add, not this one, I need to add domain, add domain, which adding domain requires the app settings. Did this one not have that? This is in the domain project. Can't believe that didn't require it. Oh, I think that moved. I think that's supposed to move. Nope, I didn't do it there either. Okay, so I need a new fake one of these. So this will be our fake settings. Fake settings. So now I can say bonk. Await, do that. This is not async. This is an I plugin initialization. There we go. Finrail, welcome. Thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Chat, I see you've said some stuff. I will be there in a second to read it and respond. You hadn't realized that the billable feature only threw a warning until I tried it the other day. You had thought it would force you to be explicit with nullables. Get it from DI and it will die. That is true, yep. Granted, you should never ignore warnings. You should either swallow it or resolve. Yes, that is very true. It is actually why in a lot of my projects, in like a more corporate setting, I will actually turn warnings as error, like treat warnings as errors on as a feature. and it basically means that any warning is a compile, like a build error, and so then you are not even allowed by your compiler to continue on forward. So I really like doing that because it forces me to actually fix them as they come up, rather than just doing, oh yeah, we built up like 10 of them, let's go back and fix them, because sometimes they're real problems. And so that's why you want to, if you're going to have a warning that you know you're going to ignore, you want to have explicitly ignored it, because that means you checked to see why it was failing and corrected it. There are about 45 copies of the fake settings code scattered all over the shop. And a to-do to clean it up into a builder or something. Yeah, we could do that now, I guess. That is a really good point. Let's make a quick builders thing. Let's do fake settings builder. Fake settings builder. Let's do public static fake settings builder. We'll call it new. And we can change up how this works at some point if we want. So we need a new one of these, so it'll create that. Turn one of those. And then we need a couple of other quick methods on this. So let's say with what's on our settings? You know what, I could have this actually be in application settings, now that I think about it. Is it the constructor? Okay. What is this? You wanted a base class for unit test base? So I was just going to make a quick builder that just makes them. Moshiko. So this is a private constructor, and this is essentially our constructor. It'll change the way we build it, and you'll see why when I call this, that it's essentially going to let us chain things, and when you're chaining it, it looks a little bit nicer to not have a new on the beginning of it. So anyway, I'm going to call this static fake settings builder. We're going to call this method with for now, and it's going to return this. It is not static. Why did I make this static? Derp. So we're going to say this dot entropy connections. So I think that's, yep, that's a string. So we're going to add this as a string. Yep, that's fine. I know there's no implementations of it. Thank you. Connection. There we go. And then this will be there we go. With connection, we'll do that. And then, do I need the last one? Entropy in the connection, what's the last thing? Salt bytes? Yeah, I guess we can set the salt bytes if we really care. Because why not create the whole thing that does all of it? in case someone wants to do it. So this will take a byte array that we'll call bytes. Nope, that can only ever come out of that. That's read-only, so we will not do that. Oh, right, because that's just built from the entropy. Derp. With safe defaults, yes. Simon, I'm going to do that, but I build the pieces first, and then I make one that calls the rest. I usually do with test data. Oh, yes. You have it with test data suggestions, yes. I like with test data for this. Whoops, my hand was shifted over one set on the keys. With test data. And then I will say this is just this, so it'll be with entropy of entropic entropy and connection replace with this is a connection. Okay, not bad. And we can change those values at any point if we like. Okay. Now is when I decide whether or not I actually want to use this, and I think I want this to not actually be one of these. So we're going to add a property for this, create a property for entropy, and create a property for that. Actually, do we want them to be properties underscore entropy and underscore light database connection? So we're going to create fields for these. And if you're wondering why I'm creating fields, I will show you in a second. So I have made a private constructor that is only called from here. And it is complaining about the fact that I did not initialize these, but I will initialize them with those values so that it stops complaining, because nullable reference types are a thing. How about the memory connection string you mentioned in the ticket the other day? Ooh, that is a great suggestion, Simon. Great suggestion. LightDB memory database. So what Simon is talking about is, so we are using a library called LightDB in order to have a very, very small and lightweight database to be able to do a little bit of data storage. In this application, we don't want to go full database, and this is actually a reasonable solution for a lot of if you're doing like a microservices style architecture and you have something that needs to have some data storage, but it doesn't need to be like, you know, full data storage. This will give you just some basic, is a very, very simple lightweight database. So, okay. It's one of the other reasons why we are using it is because it is, as they said, I mentioned that we are going to be doing MAUI eventually on this project, which is the cross-platform UI framework that Microsoft is working on, sort of as a replacement for WPF in some ways, and Xamarin together is what it sounds like. And so we want to take a look at that for our application. So we think that we're going to be able to do that. And if we can, that would mean that someone could, for example, have a tablet next to their computer that runs their bot, which would be quite nice to not have to use your streaming computer if you didn't want to, or you still could. In fact, you could run two of them. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. So this is what a connection string looks like for Light Database. It is just this. So I am going to take the code and I'm going to put it as a connection string in here. So this is a connection string. Okay, so that is where it would put it if it puts it on the file system, but we don't want to do that because we want our unit test to not actually talk to the file system. We want to stay in memory only. Nate, welcome to the stream. Yes, 23 months is in fact almost 2 years. That's math, folks. That is math. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are just coding some stuff here. Full of relative path of the database supports memory for that. Yes. LightDB, memory, database, connection, string. Someone must have an example. That's where I am. How about an actual example? Nope. Does connectionstrings.com actually have one? For LightDB? Nope. Where's the in-memory version, folks? Where's the in-memory one? Nope. LightDB in-memory database. Yes. How do we do it? No, not a memory stream. How do I in-memory database? Come on, guys. Interwebs, help me. LightDB Spirit, that page is not found. Huh. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked. I was... Well, I guess I can just try something and see if it works. So let's have a look at the suggestion in here. So it says as part of the file name, it supports memory. Well, maybe I can find an example of using the temp. LightDB temp. Must include temp. No, that's a temp folder. Yeah. Well, I can try just putting it in and seeing what happens. Maybe we just put that in. I don't know. Yeah, exactly, helpful stranger, but that's not what I'm not sure is how I get it to do that. So I'm going to leave out the password for now, and I'm just going to say memory, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so anyway, so we built this builder, and what we're going to do with it is not just store those values there. We actually, I didn't want to delete that. I'm going to need it in a second. So we have that, and then we have public application settings build. So this is when we return a new application settings that has all of those values that we just set. So the entropy is set to entropy, and the LightDB connection is set to LightDB connection. And now we have a simple class that just wires that up and can be saved in one spot, and yay. Wasn't there some link about passing a memory stream in a constructor, I think? Yeah, helpful stranger. So they did have that in a constructor for that object, but the trick is that we want this to come in through the connection string so that we don't have to bother with having a secondary path to create those objects for when we're in tests. So ideally, the code that our tests run is as close as possible to the code that is run in production. So if the closer we can get them, the better. So if we can do this through a connection string, that's a huge win. So, because in production, we're not going to be passing it like a file stream, for example. We're just going to give it a connection string, and it's going to go, essentially figure out how to get its own database file. Because we don't want to deal with, we just want to say, here's where you go to get your file using your own connection string. I don't want to care about whether or not the user wanted, because this is going to be the end user that runs the bot that's going to decide this, because they can set that connection string however they like. So if they want it to be password protected, for example, or be a database file that is shared between multiple applications, that's fine by us. So we're not, like, we don't want to restrict them. So in order to do that, we just go with connection, and you can set the connection string how you like. And for the tests, we're going to pick this one, assuming we got it correct. Okay, so let's jump back over into our test code, which should be this one. And instead of just having a fake settings, we're going to do builder. Nope. Fake settings builder. New. With test data, build. There's our settings. Okay, so this is kind of what I meant, is that you say, you essentially can just put those pieces in order. Welcome, developers from Code with Sean stream. Greetings, howdy. Yeah, so that's a great question. So LightDB is just a lightweight little database that we are including in our project instead of using... Oh, man, wait, hang on. They're actually coming in with an attack. I cannot believe these people would attack us like this. And here I thought they were friendly. That is the last time I'm friendly with Sean. There's a battle going on here now. Can't believe you'd show up here like this and attack me with your raid bombs. Welcome, Ancient Coder. Welcome, Callow. Greetings, Sean. Welcome, everyone. We are working on the plugin architecture for our bot today. So, TBD Gamer, welcome. Hello, hello. Greetings. And if anyone is enjoying the stream, feel free to ask questions. You can follow the stream to get notified when we go live in the future. We are very much open to that. So to answer the question, it would be like having Entity Framework talking to a SQL Server database. But yes, this is a small, lightweight file system. It's going to store this as an individual file. It's going to load it into memory. And we can have both SQL access as well as like a more ORM style access, similar to what you'd get with Entity Framework, but way lighter weight. And the intention is that this is both going to be able to help us, be like mobile ready, as well as just having a lightweight way for this to be on the system. And then it also becomes an easy way if someone wants to build something else that can access this. This is easier than telling them, hey, we need you to connect over to this SQL server. So it's going to require no setup from the user, but still gives us a basic little database support. So that's about it. Okay, so this is the structure that we did for this, and the reason why I did this little new thing is because I like that a little bit better than writing new and then chaining these like this, because I think it looks weirder when you had new on the beginning to return something other than the object. So that's why. And then I just do a build at the end, which takes it from the builder into an application settings object. So this is an application settings object, not the builder. So, yep. That's all we did there. And then that wires that in there, and then now the to-do basically becomes have everything else use that piece. So rather than continuing the trend of making that mess, we have made the cleanup, essentially. Okay, so we have our service provider. It should get the required services. This test actually is going to fail. So maybe I should run it now and fix the failure before we move on to whatever the next failure is. Because I have not initialized all of our fake implementations, or real ones, for that matter. Okay, so it's like I can't resolve an iData store, which is totally valid. Do we have any fake service wire up stuff yet? Doesn't look like it. This looks like checking all the real ones are there. We could do this as a base test runner as well, if we wanted to go that route. Yeah, exactly, Simon. I did see the other one there. We'll get it eventually. We'll get it eventually. Do I make a base test class? I kind of want to. Alright, for now, since I don't have a better spot for it, I'm going to root to the root folder of this. So I'm just going to say base test fixture. Yes, exactly. It's like you said trebles. Did you mean tribbles? I think you meant tribbles. I don't think it's spelled with an E, is it? It's got to be an I. Maybe you're on a phone and that was autocomplete. Okay, this will be abstract. Abstract. This will be an abstract class that will have a protected constructor. So... Oh, you just can't spell. Okay, well then, yeah, that's possible too. The base test fixture is going to have... I think this is where our service collection is going to wire up. To be honest, I think that's where we're going to do it, and I think you're going to modify it if you want it modified. I don't know. I'm torn on this. This is going to be protected, and it will get wired up in the constructor. We'll make it read-only. That'll be the service collection. This will be the base test fixture that it's going to use. And then this is going to be service collection. Have it call an abstract method. You're mixing your class and your method level stuff now. Better option just to have a helper method that takes a collection as an argument. So I was thinking create the service collection and then, because that is going to be everywhere, and then have I was thinking that we have some kind of a method that you call to do something, but I'm not sure what yet. I guess we could abstract it and have this just call the we could say set up services. We could do. maybe this just takes in the service collection, and this is the service provider that gets set up. So maybe we have this just set this, and then this just gets set equal to the value of that, and then that well, we could have this return back the service collection. Services equals that. And then we could say services dot something or other, and then this, instead of being void, is the iService collection, and then it is going to build the service provider, and this needs to take in an iService collection and return back one. Services, and then it's complaining about the fact that I called this virtual member in here, because that's not where I want to call it, is it? I guess I can. Okay. So what is, let me catch up on chat. Hang on. Simon, you are saying, is XUnit one instance per test method? Yes. The constructor will be called before each test method. So yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking. So it's yelling at me here because so we are getting a warning about so if you call a virtual or abstract method in a constructor, that is usually frowned upon for one reason. So let me explain why there's a warning for it. Because this actually shocks a lot of people when they run into it the first time. They're like, why can't I call virtual, abstract, etc. in the constructor? So when we call constructors, there is a specific order that things are going to happen. In our plugin initialization class, this is the child class, we might have a constructor in here. In fact, we should kind of have we maybe want to have a constructor here. So this would be our constructor. So there is an implied call to the base constructor here as well. So when we call our constructor, it first needs to call the constructor of the parent. What does this mean for us? This means before this class has been initialized, so before this has been constructed, we are down inside of this constructor, the parent constructor. So in the parent constructor, if we call something virtual or abstract, that means we're calling a method of the child. So we have called a method of the child class from the parent. And remember, this is while the parent is being created. When the parent is being created, the child doesn't really exist, like not fully. It's kind of there. So we get a warning because I'm calling a method on a class that has not been constructed yet. The method is still there, so it is safe to call as long as we don't have any dependencies on the child class having been set up. That is the biggest danger, and that is why we get a warning. So as long as we make sure that we are not depending on stuff existing in here, that's not like a warning that's like, it is a warning, there's a reason for the warning. It's an important warning to think and know about, but it is not one that that we have to completely avoid. I just wanted to explain the reason for the warning so that people get that. Because that is, like, not everybody knows why they're suddenly getting this warning about this thing. It's like, wait, it's yelling at me about this. Why is the language yelling at me? Well, we're doing something that's not, you know, the nicest. And we could do this some other ways. So I want to return back the services. There we go. So we will return services, and all we need to do is say services dot something. Yeah, actually, that's what I'm thinking. Is I was just thinking about this. I'm going to change how we do it a little bit, because this isn't quite going to work. There's something else that I need. I need a protected iService provider. This doesn't technically have to be a service provider. This could technically be void. So let's figure this out. So we're going to make a slightly different way of setting up the services. We're not going to do it that way. I think what I'm going to do is this. We're going to do a function. Function and action. An action. I don't think we need any values on it. That receives an iService collection. What just happened there? There we go. And this is... what do we call this? This is foo for now. That'll pass that a new service collection, which I guess we'll hang on to. We'll call it services. And then we can set our service provider equal to services.build service provider, which it's read-only, which will remove that requirement. I guess it could just return back a service provider. But then the problem is, as soon as you do that, you've got to have this. Keep it iService collection and have the caller do the build. Microsoft calls it configuration test services. Configure test services? I mean, I guess I could. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. My concern with this is I'm not sure how much I've saved by doing this unless I have some, unless I have a default for this. That's my concern there, is I don't know how much I've saved, because now, in order to use it, here's what we end up with when we try to use this. If we want to set this up, we have to say we say x add domain settings. Oh, did we not let those chain? We didn't let these chain. we're going to let these chain also. So if you return back the same object, they're not meant to chain. Why are they not meant to chain? What do you mean by real ones? I like them chained. Do the Microsoft ones not chain? The official Microsoft ones, you think they don't chain? I don't know. I think they might chain. Yeah, we're adding more stuff to the service collection. We're like adding this one and this one and this one and this one and this one. So we're building up an object essentially. And welcome, Lumpfish. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you are enjoying our fun conversations here. X.add, so domain, what are infrastructure, LightDB, infrastructure, LightDB, There's our service provider. Greetings, Lumpfish. Yeah. So there's a couple of ways that chaining will usually work. So there is the chained thing immediately goes into the next one, but it is also fairly common for chaining to be used in a builder structure where you have no direct adjustment of the one right before it. That, for example, is like this. I can do like with test data and then say, with something else, and they've all chained off of the new. So effectively, these have the association with the new, not with each other, but they still chain the same way. And so the idea would be is if you think of this as being the root, then each one of these is modifying that. And it does end up being the exact same pattern. But yeah, we don't have to have it chain. It just means to get this. I mean, I get that Microsoft might not do it that way, but I can tell you that I disagree with a number of things that the ASP.NET team has said over the years. Like early on, before they had caching of NuGet packages, for example, they tried to claim all of these things like, what did they say? They said things like, oh, you should never include DLLs or references to the libraries that you depend on in your source control. I had massive arguments with them about that, and I said, so we made a couple of cases. We said, first off, NuGet's going to go down someday, and I'm not going to have that problem. Second, there is no cost to these, so I don't do that right now. But we did this for a while because we did it long before the NuGet existed, and then the other problem is we tried to tell them we took old code that did not include the packages and could not build it because the versions were no longer on NuGet. And we're like trying to explain this to them. We're like, you allow the package creator to delete any version. If I was depending on a specific version on this code that the client left sitting there for like 3 years and I pick up the project and I want to work with it and NuGet doesn't have that package version, they're like, no, that never happened. I'm like, dude, guys, that happens. And then like years after I had this argument with the ASP.NET team, what happens? Well, it wasn't NuGet, but in some other package managers, some core packages disappeared everyone was depending on. And what happens? The internet like falls apart because a package got removed from the package manager. We're like, yeah, that's why whenever you shut down a project, Like if a project is going to sit for years and everyone's going to stop working on it, you're going to, you know, essentially like close it up for a while and say no dev's going to work on this for years. You should include a copy of the dependencies, all the packages that you need. There should be a way to just say, like, yeah, shove that into source control. That's going to temporarily be there. If we ever go back and work on this project again, so like if you do like put something in the vault and say we're not going to work on this for years, you should put all your package references in there so it at least compiles. Yes, exactly. Yep. Yes. Where do I press now? I agree. I think chaining there is completely fine for this. Who cares what other things of what you do? Every pattern is depending on the context. So one dev's pattern is another dev's anti-pattern. Yeah, so Fuel Snabel is actually very, very correct there. That as long as it's not like causing a serious problem, and there is good structure to it, any given pattern can be a good one depending on how you're using it. So, and opinions of it. Okay, so done with a rant for a moment. So get this. Var initialization. Okay, I think this is going to fail for a variety of reasons, but let's figure out what happens. And yes, so there are specific things that are industry standards that you do want to make sure that you are following. If everyone's going to expect something to work a certain way, you should do that. Hey, there's the error we were expecting. It didn't know how to resolve this, which is totally fine, because we didn't tell it how to do that. Okay. So let's add in some dependencies, which for now will be these ones. So x add transient right there is going to be that. And then this side is going to be that, and that, with some semicolons on the ends of the lines. So there is our dependencies for running one of these, which this may go into the constructor of this, so that each test that we do that runs this gets these set up. And then what do we want to do? I guess we'll just create some basic mocks and ignore it for now. iData store. Does this not have a reference to this? Hopefully that didn't add the project reference. Let me take a look. No, I don't see it, so I don't think it added a project reference for that. I'm assuming this project reference was already here. Object. Let's create this. We may not need the settings, actually, now that I think about it. Put those up there. That there. Change that into a field. That'll be the provider. Underscore provider. Then this needs to be a field as well. So this will be the data store. And then this, he doesn't like that object. What? Can this not take an instance? Oh, because that's a transient. Derp. Hi, data store. I thought I saw something going on in chat. I'll take a look in a second. Chat, what's up? Okay. And the way DI is extended to startup is one of them. Teams such as Automapper and Mediator, etc., are all doing it the same way as Microsoft. Why? Because then everyone understands how it works without going and reading some wiki. You're not saying never to judge from it, but yes. Well, at the same time, everyone did a simple thing and skipped a step. So in this case, I'm just pointing out that I don't think that there is a loss from doing that, because you can still write the exact same code that they did. The code and the way that they built it, it 100% works with the way that we're doing it. So because their code still works exactly the same, we have not really changed anything. And that's the important key there. Is whoops. Why was I in that when I meant to be in here? New mock of that dot object. So we will pull this out as the the directory reader. And now on this one, new mock of that dot object. And this is going to come out as well as a field, and we will call this plugin set. Okay. Do. There we go. And these can all be read-only. Okay, so now down here, when I run these tests, let's find out what happens. No service type for iPlugin initialization. That's true, I did not tell it which thing to use for that. This, I don't need a plugin for. This, I can just have be the object. How do I create that one then without calling its thing directly? I guess I could do an add domain. Domain should be safe to add, it's not infrastructure. With test data, build. There we go. And add domain should be fairly safe, right? Yeah. Domain is pretty safe because domain should not require it. So domain shouldn't require what I want there. Except for the purposes of our test, the difference between a singleton and a transient is irrelevant. So does that work? Yay. Okay. So we have a mocked object for this, and now initialization.initialize. And then what do we want to ensure happened? I guess we can say the plugin set should get its plugins added for something. That's actually something that should have happened. Where is our plugin set from? It's in domain. Did this get set up in domain? Plugin set. This is not referenced anywhere. I bet this one's supposed to be in here too. Which means we don't need it out here unless we want an object for it, which I don't think we do. Because it's part of domain. It's just the data store and the directory reader that we need to mock. Because this will be the real one. Okay, so that means that we can just ask for it right here. And it'll be the same one. Plugin set, plugins, empty. Should be empty. Okay, so the basic test here is that we are going to say that after you call initialize, if there was no data in the database and no plugins in the plugin folder, the plugins collection should be empty. So we'll say set no plugin data given empty folder and database. Set no plugin data given Grumpy Game Dev, welcome, greetings. Okay, so our initial case is the empty case. It's basically this is the nothing has happened one. So we're gonna say that this may throw an exception. We're gonna find out because we have not set the values. Our mocks are not returning correctly, so we could have some errors here that we're going to need to. So we should have some errors here, I think. Whoa, it worked. Right, does initialize call anything? No, it doesn't. It calls nothing. Right, it doesn't, there's no code. So, I was thinking that I'd called one, which I haven't. So, this test is going to break in a moment, and we'll figure out why. But instead of doing that, I'm going to change the test first. So let's go to data store setup. So we're going to set up the mock on this object first. We're going to say x dot get entities. What entity type are, so we're expecting someone to call this and ask for plugin info data, and we want this to return back a new list of plugin info that is empty. Okay, so that is our setup that says make sure that this happened. Can I verify it? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to say that it returns that and that it is verifiable, so that I think that means I can get away with saying datastore.verify without having to specify what was in there. Okay, so that is a crazy amount of hours, and while that sucks, that is also awesome, Fuel Snable. Classic QA issue that always data on a dev's machine. No one tests for empty database, as would be on a new customer. Something blows up. Yes, exactly. You should always test the case of what happens when there is nothing, and just make sure that those scenarios work great. Yes. I like how Simon had the same reaction. It's like, yeah, that is both terrible but also awesome. It is. That's one of the great things about the internet and gaming is that at least when things are accessible, it is wonderful that the internet essentially allows a bit of freedom to someone who otherwise is, not not as I was gonna say mobile or free or some other thing, like can't go and enjoy like the real world, but there are virtual worlds to enjoy instead. So that is one of the nice things. So here's a mildly interesting, possibly derailing question. You're in refactor. I'm assuming you mean the book. Having made your way from red to green. Oh no, you mean like the refactor step in red green refactor. During the refactory, new function is found to be needful. What now? So there's a handful of options. So because you're in refactor step, essentially what you can do is so you have some options. You can either go back to before you started your refactoring, add the new test and create the new method, basically like stash your changes, create new method, create tests for method, right? And like, together as a process doing TDD, and then pop the stash and start working on that again. So assuming you're in Git, so just stash your current changes and then come back to them. You're refactoring once that the new class or method that you need exists. Alternately, sometimes what people do is you can just comment out the refactoring. Depending on how you're doing refactoring, if it's really invasive, you might not be able to do that. But yes, that is a way to do it. So yeah, no, but that's fine, Grumpy Game Dev. You can create a method that is otherwise not going to get used and then immediately pop. Remember, you're not pushing this code, you're just committing locally. So you can always add things that are not strictly needed to buy something as long as you know that it is for that refactoring. So create the thing, don't push it anywhere until it's actually getting used, but you can write some tests for it and create the method that then will get used once that refactoring exists. I got what you were saying, but yeah, that is an okay thing to do. Yep, totally in the clear. Oh, nice. Okay, not going to let too much derail because I do want to make sure that this works. Okay, this test I believe will now fail because that method is not getting called. So it should yell at us if I wired that up correctly. Good, there we go. Failed verification due to the following. That method was supposed to get called. It did not get called. Okay, so that means that we have said clearly this at some point has to talk to the database, so let's pull the info from the database. So that's this first to do. List of plugin info that we will say is plugin info equals data store get entities of plugin info type. And I think that's all we have to say. It's just that. And then this will get us everything we have in the database for this. Okay. Fingers crossed. We haven't checked that it does anything yet, but we at least call the method. Yay! Okay. Excellent. Next step. Read the plugins folder. Okay. So that is underscore directory reader. Read plugins folder. I think I am going to hard code its knowledge of the fact that that is a folder that exists, rather than making a... So I'm essentially thinking of a directory reader as like the directory reader for our domain, not as like a wrapper around file system access, because I don't think we're going to have enough of that to merit having that type. So I am going to have it be a domain-specific one. that understands which folders it's looking at instead of being generic. If we need to modify to a more generic approach, we can change our code at that time. So just explaining the strategy as we go. So this needs to return back something. The question is, what does this return back? Maybe the names of the file, like, I don't know that I want like file info, like system.io file info, like data coming in, but maybe that's what I'm doing. Maybe I'll just do a list of string for now. And if we need more data, we can either make a class about it, or we can either make a class that has that information, or we can grab the file info objects if we decide we need that. List of string. Okay. So now the test should fail again. So we'll confirm that it fails and that was not called, which confirms that we wired up the expectation correctly. Exactly. I agree, Simon. That's why I was saying that I don't really want to do that. The catch is that we might actually have those inside of there, and if we end up with a class that exists only in the infrastructure project itself, and if we push this down further, so that's why I was saying, like, I don't know yet, because we could have so essentially we're up here. This is the file info. If we put a class in between that, like, or push this one down, it might return file info so that the one in between that's still in the infrastructure project might know how to work with those, depending on the structure we create. So that's why I say, like, it might change to that, but it depends on the rest of the architecture we build. So I'm not ruling it out entirely. I'm just saying for now we're going to do strings, and if we need more than strings, which we're going to need more than strings, we'll put in a class type instead. So, wait, what? Did this fail? Did I write it first? Why didn't that fail? Directory reader reads the... Oh, derp. See? This is why... So, huge key point I want to explain to everyone that has ever questioned TDD. This is why. This is why TDD is red-green refactor. Literally, I don't care how long you've been doing TDD and these steps. If you don't see it fail, you don't know that it can fail. I didn't have this verify. I had the expectation, so if it was called, it would be fine. But if this code ever, succeeded without having checked that verify, because for some reason it didn't call that, something changed, the test might still pass, even though it should fail, because I didn't build the test to be able to fail. That's why you need red first, because you need to know that it really can fail if something is wrong. In this case, it's the test that was wrong, but the reason why with the test being wrong, that means the test isn't really testing what we think it is. So it meant that the test could fail later if that didn't get called. Well, the test would fail without failing is the problem. The test would pass when it should fail, which is really, really worse, actually. Yes. No, I agree. So, Simon, for leaving the infrastructure project, we need to change off of the the system.io file info objects. But I meant for if there is another layer still within the infrastructure project for doing something that it would still be using the system.io file info objects there, and then when we go up to the level where we are now at the highest level, that's where we would need to be in some kind of domain object that we use. I'm gonna say Sam, which hopefully you're okay with. If you're not, give me some guess on the emphasis or anything else. But welcome, thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream, let's continue on. So that was supposed to get called one time. It was not. So let's go ahead and add that. So that's that, and then we are going to read the plugin info. So directory reader.read the plugin folder. So strings, and this is plugin folders. I assume they'll be in folders, but I don't know for certain. I guess it could be a freestanding DLL. We haven't really decided on that. Okay, so there's plugin folders. Now this should pass. Maybe. Yay! Okay. Next up, create plugin. So for unknown ones, how do you deal with required transitive dependencies that don't respect? I'm assuming that was supposed to be Semver. I didn't have a good answer for you on that one yet, Fuel Snable. We've not figured that out. We're gonna have to make some decisions on a lot of those types of questions. So essentially, in our case, if we have a plugin that requires another plugin, like one of them depends on the other, we're gonna have to decide how we do that. My plan is to make it so that dependencies maybe check versions that they can use or things like that. I'm not 100%. I have not decided how we're doing that yet. So it's a tough question. As they say, there are two hard problems in computer science: naming things, dealing with version conflicts, and off-by-one errors. So NuGet version hack redux. Yeah, we're... Let's go ahead and... I think this is going to happen every single time, isn't it? Because we're always going to call initialize. So this can go up here, because we're going to do that for every single test. And then we just have to make sure that we verify at the end of them. So plugin set is just so we can check the plugin set. I guess technically this could happen in every single one too. So we'll have this go up into the constructor, and we'll have this be plugin init, and we'll make it read-only for now, because I think it can go up there. We'll make this do the same thing, be initialized in the constructor and be read-only. And so now we're just running this and then verifying the status. So if we did nothing, then that's what happens. So now for this, we need to define what those are if we're going to do that. So we're going to make this be called in a helper. Set xbook. Set return values. That's what it'll be. So this is going to be set return values, and then this is where we get these parameters. The first one is the data set for this, so this is our plugin infos. Sure, reasonable name. And this one we're going to set as a parameter as well, and this will be file names, which that may change at some point because that may be more complicated. Why not wait until you have more than one, every single one? You're right, Simon. You're right. I should probably wait until I've got the duplication before I do that. But this seems like the set that we're going to do. So let's run this, and then I will duplicate. You're right, I probably should have made the duplication before I did that. I jumped ahead of myself. It's okay. It happens. We all make mistakes. Alright, so let's do the create new records one if there are files in the folder. So the directory is going to have data this time. I think that is a reasonable test. So we'll do the create new. So this is not an aligned one where it was in both places. It's only in one place for now. So create plugin info given folder data not in DB. So folder data that's not in the database. So that means database is going to come back given folder data, I'll say and empty DB. So this will be a new list of strings, and we will call this, what would be a good good folder to have found in here? What would be a plugin someone would find? Commands plugin. Simple commands plugin. There we go. Maybe it won't have plugin in the name. It'll just be called simple commands. Okay, so now that is the return value from that one. And yes, thanks Grumpy Game Dev. That's totally possible. Someone's gonna make a plugin like that. I hope you make that one, Grumpy Game Dev. Chat games is not bad either. Yeah. Which we'll adjust the test to add more than one in a second, but I'm going to do the test first with just the one. So we're going to verify that it calls it, we're going to initialize it, and we want the plugins not to be empty. Contain single. And it should just contain a single one. And then I'm going to do not single, should, and then what am I going to say about it? I don't know what it is. So we'll say single dot name should be this name. Plugin name, I guess. Chat games plugin. What if it contains an empty string in the list? We should take a we should make that. I think is a test that we should handle in the potential return values of this. We should make sure the directory reader gives us back valid directory data. I think this means I'm obliged to making fartbot, which means I'm obliged to do it on stream. Oh yeah, no, Grumpy Game Dev, you're absolutely obliged to do that. That is totally what you should do. That's the takeaway right there. If you don't do that, then I mean, how are you going to sleep at night? You'll just be thinking about that the whole time. All right, excellent. So we expected that to contain a single item, but it was empty. So yay, that's exactly what we expected. We have not written the code that actually does that yet. So it was supposed to come back empty. Okay, so let's do it. So we're going to do this TDD style. So we're going to do the wrong thing first, the one that does not implement correctly. That way, when we get to our next test, we can make it right. So, first thing we're going to do is this. We're going to say for each plugin folder, string plugin folder, we are going to say plugin set add, plugins. We're not going to, are we going to register them? Ooh. Is register actually going to run them when we do this? I need to go review how this works. Just to see what that does. That just adds them to the collection, but does not initialize them. Yes. New plugin info. This is going to need to live somewhere at some point, but for now, name equals plugin folder. And let's be absolutely certain that enabled is false when we're creating new ones. Oh, you're absolutely right. Let's see. Have it just randomly make fart noises in chat. It's even better if it doesn't like make a sound on stream, but instead like tries to write one. So it's like, you know, so it makes like some bizarre like fart noises in chat just every once in a while. Those kinds of things, like what I typed over there. If you're allowed to have an icon, I recommend baked beans. Yes. So Simon, yes, the plan is going to be that plugins will define what their icon looks like. That is absolutely going to be a concept for these. We sort of already do it because technically the commands plugin does define what its own icon is. I think that's technically enough to make this pass, even if I add this. Single, not name, but enabled should be false. Should absolutely be turned off when you start it. I think that's important enough that that we want to test just to make sure that when you add a new one, that it is absolutely not turned on. But the collection was empty. Ooh, see, I expected the test to pass there. Why didn't it? Why didn't it? For each one of these plugins, set register. Ooh, see, this is why the like you need to see passes and failures exactly as you expect, because this may not be wiring up as I think it is. That's why. That is state of the system. That 100%, no matter what, always has to be only one of. That is like, what's the current situation? That has to be... The initialization can be transient, but that has to be a singleton. See? There's why you test. I mean, as if we didn't already know why you test. Yes, Simon, it is right now. And I guess that depends on what you mean. I guess it depends on what register does. Which if we separate those out, we might have to tweak that, but we'll figure it out. That's why I said we're building this structure right now, so it may not be wired exactly the way that we want it to long term. Okay, so how do we want this to work then? Let's change this. This is not going to be a fact anymore. This is going to be a theory, because I want to change how this works. We're just going to inline data it for now. And then this will be string plugin name. Okay, so in case there are people that don't know the nuances of XUnit as opposed to say MS test or NUnit, instead of just having a test, as like its own attribute, and then you just have test cases and things like that. XUnit does it a little bit differently, which the quick explanation is: a fact is an individual fact about it. That is one test that is, just on its own. A theory is a test that is multiple things. So in this case, we have inline data, and essentially what that means is this is individual test cases. So if I add a second one, that is an additional test case that will run. So I can essentially parameterize my test methods, but in XUnit, they just call it a fact and a theory, so there's two different names for it. That's all. It broke their brain. Oh, nice, Grumpy Game Dev. Have you tried introducing FS check? There are a lot of things that you could introduce to a team that can break their brains. Okay. Hey, Coated Beard, welcome. Greetings. Okay, so test still passes. That's good. So, what were the other suggestions? There was chat games. Is that what? Chat games and fartbot. Okay. Okay. So, first things first, we need to change that to that. So, oh, this sort of answers some of the questions. So I put these in, and then I'm going to comment them out. And the reason I did that is because this is what I wanted to do, and then it's like, oh, I need to make a refactoring to make that possible. So what I'm going to do now is go back to the original one with these commented out and say, okay, in order to make that work, I have to change this into an array. And then my array here becomes plugin name to list. So I'm going to take that array, make a list out of it to pass it in there. And then in here, so I said should contain single, have count equal to the plugin name count. And then on this one, I should say not single, but for each one of these, that should be the case. So plugin name for, I haven't written this yet, but I think I'm going to. For generic extensions, I usually just make myself a generic extensions folder. And I'm going to make a class that is enumerable extensions. Hang on, chat. I will catch up with you. I see chat going nuts right now. I will get to that. Public static void for each this I enumerable of t, and yes, I am just going to t this because I don't really know what it's going to be. Enumerable, because it's t of anything, and there's only one of them, so we don't need to worry about, like, is it a t if it's an entity, or is it a t type, or whatever. Like, so it's very, very simple generic, so I'm not going to deal with naming this one. Okay, so how do I want to do this? For each, and then we need to have some kind of action on them, so it is an action that takes in the t, and this is action. Sure, why not? Sure, it'll be the item. Action, passing in the item. Did I skip anything? There are other ways to write this, but I just want to have a version of it so that it's here. That way, if I want to write a for each instead of writing a for loop, I can do that. So now I want to say plugin name for each Although, funny enough, on this one, I may just for each it anyway. I went and created that, and then I'm not even going to use it. Okay, so let's adjust the structure of these tests. So right now, here's what I did. I said take the plugin set, grab the plugin collection, grab a single item off of that collection, and then check its property, say that property should be something. Let's change the way we do it. Nope, that is one case where it really truly is T. Yes, Simon, yeah, exactly. Because there's nothing about that type, so I T those. Yep, I agree. Let's do it this way. Plugin name for each. We're gonna say X. We're gonna say plugin set should be Let's say plugin set plugins should contain single I'll write it down here and decide if it's too big to go in a for each. So I was saying I was going to change the way this goes, and I was going to say, so should contain a single where that single X enabled is not enabled, and name equals plugin name. Like this. Plural, 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 plural. Okay. So right now, the debate is whether or not that merits a for each loop, or whether I should write it as a simple for each extension method, and I don't know which one. Oh, did the other bot die in some capacity? Probably did. Is it sitting on a... No? Occasionally it's sitting on a, like, I come, like, it's broken and it's sitting on a breakpoint or something like that, or it managed to catch a, what's the word? It threw an exception and we're sitting there, because I do actually have it debugging, so that if I want to take a look at what exceptions happen while it's running, I can. Wait, what? Oh. It didn't die. Well, bird is the word. Orange is the word. Is that really orange? Did all of the connections to that die? Let me restart that bot. Hang on 1 second. Let me click these buttons. Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go. Oh, well, I gotta get the colors working. The colors are an important part of the stream. How can you possibly watch this stream without the colors? Okay, so that version works. Let's go ahead and do this and try it with 2 items. I already know that I did the for each loop, so I think it'll pass. Same thing with this one. So all 3 of these test cases should pass. That is an interesting color of brown there, Grumpy Game Dev. Yes, exactly. We're gonna change it into being a plugin. So, oh man, that's your password there, Fuel Snable. Sorry about that. That happens. Okay. So that creates the placeholder ones that are not set up ish. What other requirements do we want to have on this? So it should contain a single that has these properties. X dot location should equal the plugin name ish too. So let's make sure that it's at least setting those. So location, this is not final because it's not just going to be like the folder. We're going to have more data than that. Yours is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, see, that's the trick. Mine's way more complicated. Mine is that. It's backwards so that no one can figure it out. Sneaky. Clever, as it were. Okay, so let's make sure that it can pull some out of the database. So let's say, what do I want to do? I will copy this for now. Change it from a theory to a fact. Remove the parameters, and we will say adds plugin info given empty folder given database data and empty folder. So well, let's say adds as missing. So we need to in some way have it be like disabled and status of missing. Given database data and empty folder. So this is going to be a new list of string, and then this one needs to suddenly have data in it. So that'll have a plugin info object in it. Whoops. We're going to extract out as a plugin info object. Given database data and empty folder. Yep. So we're going to call initialize. We're going to have that be the expected data. And then we're going to say it should have a count of 1. Contain single. And then we want to do plugins single. And then we're going to say, what about it? Single, it is... So we have a Boolean for enabled, and I'm kind of thinking that we're going to already need a status enum type or something. Yes, exactly, Simon. See, now we're getting into the point where we need some kind of a status. So I think we're going to say instead of enabled, we have a status, and status can include enabled and disabled. But I think we need to have it. No, we're not going to nullable Boolean. Good try, Grumpy Game Dev. We're not doing a try bool here. No try bool. Get out of here. Get out of here. We're doing a named state. We could do a flag Xenum. Are you thinking that it can be new and enabled? Because I was thinking that basically once we create these, we're putting them right back in the database was sort of my thought. Because I kind of see like once you've got it in the folder and you've turned it on once, I think we put it in the database when you enable it. Do it the C way, all ints. Yes. It could be new and disabled. So my thought was that if it's new, it is disabled by default. Essentially, if it's not on, like there is a status for on, and maybe there's on, off, new, and like missing or something. Let's talk through the statuses. We'll get to that. Should be plugin statuses dot, what did we say, missing? If it's not new, it's enabled or disabled, may also be missing. Yes, that was kind of what I was thinking. I don't know what out of date would be. If you have a version mismatch, yeah, I would think, exactly. I would think there's an error. It's some kind of error state. And I don't think we need to get specific on what the error state is for the status. I think it's just that there is something wrong, and then there could be information that shows what that is. So I don't think we need a status for a version mismatch. I think what we would do there is say that there's an error, and then the error details would include the fact that there was a version mismatch or something like that. Okay, so plugin statuses. I feel like that's probably also domain level, because I don't think anything outside of the domain is going to need to depend on that. I think it's just this. Oops, not a class. Let's make an enum. And if we decide to move it, we can. So why don't we make new, capital N. We'll make that be the 0. So, like, when it gets created, it is zeroed. So for enums, just a heads up for anyone, when you create these, please always define your numbers, especially if you're going to store them. So if you're going to store an enum value in some capacity, make sure you choose your numbers. And the reason why is, if you don't choose your numbers, it's going to be based on the order, so that means that developers can't decide to reorder the list, you can't add new ones in, you can't adjust them. It also makes it so it's very clear what the number is, and it makes you think about the 0 case. And the reason I specifically talk about the 0 case is an enum is an integer. Like the underlying data structure is an integer, so the default value of this is 0. That means that if 0 were like active, and I had not actually set that, and I just did like active, inactive, then that means that the default case is active, whether or not I wanted it to be or not. So if I didn't define it, that's what I get. So set the value just to make sure that you've thought about it. So new, and then we'll have enabled equals 1, disabled equals 2, missing equals 3. I think missing is significant because missing is different from there's something wrong with it. This is it's straight up not there. And this is error. Now, we could do these as flags, which I'll adjust how they are, but let me catch up with chat for a minute. Did Java just get record types because C# added it, or was it vice versa? Fuel Snable, C# has been trying to add record types. They have been getting asked for since about version 6 of C#. So there was a proposal to add them into C# 6. There was a proposal to add them into C# 7. There was a proposal to add them into C# 8. And sort of. I should say there was a proposal to add an implementation of them in each of those versions. Each proposal has been different, and they were not always record types, but something that approximated it. And so they are finally getting them after we've been, waiting for it for like so many versions of the language. How about doing flags compatible numbers now? Yes, I'm cool with that. That's what I was mentioning just now, is that I will at least make them so 0 would straight up be, so 0 is valid, because that is new but not enabled, which I guess if we really wanted to do it, we could leave 0 to be something else. Yeah, exactly, Fuel Snable. Okay, and let's do this. I want to adjust that style so that we don't do that. Do I want to binary this? So so if we go this route, we're effectively saying that that new is there's nothing about it, but so new is nothing, and then any other status is not new. Because as soon as it has some other status, it can't be new, is sort of what we're saying then. I don't think it can, Fuel Snable. Yeah, so the funny thing is, if you don't like, when I do flags, I like binarying them because it makes it clear that you're doing flags. But yeah, I'm torn whether or not whether I want to do it that way or not, or whether I just want to do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can something be so like if it's missing or an error? So the only one where we actually are doing anything with it is enabled. If it's not enabled, it's off. If it's not enabled, it's off. I don't think that there is a reason for having multiples. I just don't think there is, because when it's new, it's only new as long as you haven't done anything with it. Like once it's saved, it's no longer new. So I don't think we ever save it with a 0. I think we would save it as disabled. So so 0 is never in the database. These are the only values that are ever stored in the database, is kind of my thought. Enabled, disabled, missing, and error. That's kind of the way I'm thinking about it, and maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, I guess you could leave out error as an option in the status, and just then you have to check whether or not there is an error. But I like the status being an indicator that there's a value there, and not having to just say whether or not there are items in the errors collection kind of thing. And sort of what I'm thinking along that is, I guess it might be possible that you'd want to save the database with it in an errored state until it gets fixed. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. Oh, can it be missing? It definitely cannot be missing and enabled, but disabled doesn't really mean anything. Like, disabled and missing both mean would both not be turned on. In both cases, what state you put it in. So the only state that it's on, this is the only one that is on. Every other state is off. That's the only state where it is on. Every other state is off and is really just there for like metadata info. And even this, like, this could just be convenience for like an icon we display on the row. Instead of having to check a value, it can be like, instead of whether or not there is an error's value, for example, it could be whether there's an error, because this could be like different icon check, for example. So if we bind to this value, it's simpler to have it on the state than to check some other value. So if it's missing, does the user have to re-enable it? So my thought on that one, Renee, is like that we will validate it when it comes out again, and we could fix it. So I guess it's a question. Maybe the only ones we actually save in the database are enabled and disabled, and the rest of them are... At which point, maybe the status is not stored in the database? That could be a question. Maybe status is not stored in the database. Ah, yes. I just finally noticed your comment there. I got lost there, Renee. But yes, you're correct. We could bit shift all the values in the... If we were going to do these and you didn't want to use binary, we could do them all as bit shifted values. But if you save it, same as if it has error, does it need to be re-enabled before it's run again to protect the bot as a whole? I See, that's the thing I was wondering about, is does a user have to re-enable it if it was ever in an errored state? Do they need to re-enable it? And I think the answer is yes. I think if it ever loaded with an error, we'd want well, or would just the fact that the error was gone and it had been saved with it supposed to be enabled be enough to just say, oh, you added the, like if it had been missing? Because my thought was, if you have missing or an error, you don't even try to use it the next time it loads, so that's why you would save it as that, because then that could get figured out. Also, new one of the keys is, I think that new might have different. So new might trigger validation to be different. Like, if it's new, we don't require that you have set all the data necessarily. Yeah. I think this, I think, can handle what we're doing. If we want to tweak it and adjust it, we still have time. There's not, like, stored data or anything. Create a property called status, and it is a plugin status. Statuses. Ooh, plugin info's at that level? Oh, yeah, I guess it would be. Plugins. Unless those come up. Do these? No, actually, hang on. Maybe these go over here. Maybe I'm going the wrong way. Maybe those push down the domain instead of being up in the abstractions layer? I need to fix namespaces and such. Give me a sec. Let me make sure namespaces and references work with this change. And yes, I know I moved them without actually going and fixing it, so... Ooh, plugin set was at that level? Why is plugin set at that level? Because that's the route where it needs to know that these exist, and so that would need to go up there. So because we have that up there, we have to move these up here, so that means that... No, it does need to live up here. I don't have a way around it. They go up there. Well, I was trying to move them out, but they're moving up top. Oh, whoops, I don't want to do that. I'm going to fix these domains the other way. Yeah, see? This is one of the funny things when you're writing code on stuff, is the number of times that you'll flip back and forth on where to actually store stuff. What namespace something belongs to. It's an important question, but it is a pain as you switch back and forth. Let's do a quick build. Okay. You do all enums have to be single bits as if they're a flag. Oh, that's kind of funny, Renee. You totally can, because then they're always available to be a flag. Shouldn't that be plugin status? Yes. Where they end up needing a flag like operations. Why can't it be in the domain? So the reason why it can't be in the domain yet is because the interface plugin set knows about plugin info, and this interface, I guess we could register. Yeah, I guess if this interface moves up, it can. So I would just have to yank this as well. Yeah, you're right. I'll just yank that up with it. So this will go up into state up there. That's the only one keeping it from moving. It's funny, sometimes the simple question is the one that solves the problem. Why can't it go there? Well, because this one. Well, then move that one. Okay, yeah. That's fair. Plugin info. All right, let's see how much that builds and how much it fails. It needs to be shared with the plugin implementation, that it should be in the plugin SDK assembly. Yeah, so exactly. We don't have we have not created a nice like dependency for plugins to depend on yet. You should have a domain folder in the root DLL. The intent that there is no need to reference any DLL apart from Chatterbot. Yeah, so the concept is that if something is referencing Chatterbot, they should be able to, like, directly depending on Chatterbot, they should be able to do pretty much everything. The domain project I see as part of the core of the application that the application depends on, but like the WPF app is the only thing that depends on that one and doesn't really even call it. But that is supposed to be the like wire-uppy one. Domain is the implementation of those of the core. I see the base project as the abstraction of that. So maybe we're disagreeing on what the words mean. So I would put anything that is the Chatterbot SDK is the other half. We don't have a Chatterbot SDK yet, technically. Either way, we can talk about that at some point if you want to change how that is structured. I am going to continue on with this because I want to get this working. I am tired of shifting things back and forth between those. So which one is this? This is adds plugin info as missing for these. This is code from the other one that we're getting rid of. So back to the test. We're going to have a plugin info that comes out of the database, and we're going to say that when that one comes out, since it was not in the folder, it should be in the status of missing when we load it. It should contain a single one, and that one should have that status. Okay. The root has all the interfaces and the POCOs and should be the only thing that the app and the plugins need to depend on directly and respectively. Well then, yeah, I should put it down in the lower level and not in the domain like I was originally going to do. But that's fine. That's what I get for paying too much attention to chat instead of just writing code. Because I was moving it there. But that's fine. Oh, yes. Initialize. This is what we're doing. Welcome, Berg. Is that Berg or Burrow or Berg? Welcome. Greetings. Welcome to the stream. Yes, exactly, Desert Griffin. I'm going to stop listening to chat. Wait. How did I listen to you say that? Okay, so we're saying create new ones for everything that's in there, and then I'm saying the reverse now. So we're going to do the reverse of this, which is equally wrong. So we're going to say plugin infos, plural. Plugin info. Whoops. I thought I did 2. I apparently did 2 instead of S. I am smoking crack, apparently. Plugin set register the plugin info for each one of these. And I guess for now I'm just gonna say status equals missing. Only if actually missing. So I mentioned that, like, I'm doing these tests like the as you mean it way, like they like literally just do like whatever the test said, do that. Which means that I said, you know, like, yeah, if it's not in there, you just make it missing. So the real test, I don't have a test yet that says that I should actually be matching these up. So it just says right now that, you know, this is going to pass the test, which I put a note there because obviously that's going away. I think that'll make the test pass. It should contain a single one and its status should be missing. In fact, I could make sure that it is that same plugin info that came out of the database. Should, whoops, we'll single, no, we're going to say should contain, that, is that exact one. Is there a contain that's for, like, contain the exact one? Yeah, contain the exact one. So it should contain that one. Can it contain single of that one? No. But it should contain that one. And I guess we'll just deal with it if there's... I am smoking crack, apparently. Thanks, Grumpy Game Dev. Yep. That happens. It happens. You totally do. That's what you do on stream. Okay, so... we can say they're missing if they're missing. We can say they're new if they're new. So we did that, kinda. We need to line up the ones that have a pairing. So those ones will have whatever their status was if they were there. So if we find one in the folder and it is there, it should be lined up and okay and maintain whatever its state is. So let's say it should include plugins given plugin in both folder and database. Okay, so if we have a plugin that is in both places, and we're certain it's the same plugin, which I don't know how we're going to verify that yet, but we will verify that in some way. Let's call it, what did we call it up here? Plugin names? Sure. String plugin name equals simple commands. So now inside of this plugin info, its name is plugin name and its path. Dark, welcome. Thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Location, that's what we called it. Plugin name. Welcome to the stream. Same plugins, binary, hash of folder, compare. Yes. We probably should just do a hash of the binary, and should, so Should match the folder name and a hash of the binary. Seems like a good way of verifying it's the same one. I'm not going to write that here because I want to get it wired up with, like, I'm okay if it's going to match the folder name for now. So I think actually determining if it's the same one is probably going to be folder name, and then confirming that it's the correct version, or maybe we'll do version, maybe we'll just allow for like update version, something like that, because the binary hash would differ, but I want people to just be able to include the new version, and it should just, we should just note that and work fine. And maybe do an upgrade if we need to. Something, there might be upgrade paths, I'm not sure. Haven't totally decided yet. But for now I want to get like the initial like version of this going. It should just work. Yeah, that's the funny thing is, Grumpy Game Dev, you're right. I do want it to just work. If someone grabs a new one, they should just have the new one. Once it's in there. So, plugins. So I have one that is, so this is in both spots. We want it to contain a single, not two. And the one it should have is plugin info, and its status should not be missing. It should be whatever the initial status was. Create a local variable called status that is going to be enabled, I guess. So that test should fail. But it should also not try and load the folder, your antivirus. Oh, yes. So, well, that I would say is... yeah, if it figured out that it was, if it knew the version and there was a hash of it and everything like that, and maybe that's in the metadata of like, we actually include what the hash is supposed to be, what it is there, and what it was in this, and if the metadata says it's that same version or something, who knows. The main features of your bot header is to be less work than maintaining a bunch of bots. So yes, yep, precisely. We need this to be easier than running a few bots. Grumpy Game Dev has it precisely. Okay, so what happened? We expected it to contain a single item, but it found two items, because it created a new one for it because it didn't do the matching thing. It created one that was status new and one that was status missing. So that is precisely how we wanted this test to fail. That means that essentially we just haven't written the code yet, because we said at the beginning, okay, create new ones for this, create new ones for this, and we're good. C-films, yes, I have heard of kebab case, and I do not like kebab case in most programming languages. It is too verbose for me. Too many extra characters. Do you like kebab case C-films? It's the same reason I don't like doing the so I don't like underscores. I don't like anything where I'm increasing the number of characters. The exception being I like it as a separator. So if you look at the way that our tests work, you'll notice that we have essentially what we expect to happen, and then a separation with what the condition is under which we expect that to happen. So, okay, so this is supposed to be the ones that did not have a match. So we want to align these and get the ones that did not align. So where do we want to start this? We want to start with the ones in the folder, I think, and try to join with the ones that are so we'll start with the folders. No, we'll start with the plugin infos. And we're going to join on the folders, and we are going to say info dot location and folder. I know, chat. I see stuff happening. Give me a second. Joined. I don't have a good answer for what that is yet. Why does it not like my join? Does it actually want to require that I put a selector on here? Alright, I'll do the selector, it's fine. If it's gonna whine about it. And yes, I know I need to extract some methods for this. Well aware. This is going to be info and folder. And what do we want to have be the output of this? Info and folder. There we go. Alright, chat was blowing up. What's going on? There are languages that are not case sensitive, so there's no way for... oh, yeah. That's totally valid. But Stoolpenner, I'm in a language that is case sensitive, so I use camel case and Pascal case. You could just hash the object on both sides and compare that. C-films, that is the worst thing, and I do not want to read that. I'm guessing Jujubox? Greetings. Hello, Jujubox. Welcome. Yes, there are definitely some languages that are not case sensitive. C# is not one of those, so I am going to take advantage of the fact that I can use casing to differentiate words in my variable names. So, if I did not have that, yes, I would probably be doing something like kebab casing. Using parentheses and variable names. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And yes, that is very much a kind of thing, if you saw that. Kebab case and snake case add extra characters, and I do not... Exactly, C-films. That's why so I only use like underscores as separators between like where there's a logical separation. So in the case of things like this should happen given something. So inside of a unit test, yes, exactly. What Stoolpenner's mentioning, in a unit test, that's one of the things I do. You could be no. Fritz, don't even try bringing that up. That is a terrible idea. We're not putting our emotes in the variable names. Nope. Nope, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. No. No. The bot's off, Simon. I didn't turn it back on after it died. I just killed it. Wingdings and variables. No, we're not doing it. Nope. Mark Miller one time showed me these great features that he was building, and he was like showing me like images inside the editor. Like, look, you can load images inside your code, and I'm like, why are you doing that? That scares me. No. Yes, exactly. You hit precisely on it there, Fritz. It's not a problem to do it, but oh man, someone's gonna kill you for it. Someone is gonna kill you for it. No, I'm not gonna be that guy. No, won't be me. Won't be me. Okay, so these lined up, which I guess I'll just register them. So I'm going to do the quick thing that makes this test pass, and I'm actually just going to say do the plugin folders except for the joined select the folder. And yes, I know that's ugly. We will refactor this code, I promise. Plugin infos, except for the info off of that. And this I need a to list because I am going to enumerate it 3 times. Okay, so essentially what we're doing is this is the pairing of a folder that we found in our plugin directory and the information that we had in the database. And then I'm going to say, take all the folders we have except for the ones that we matched with in the database, and then take all of the data we found in the database, except for the ones that we found a match with in the file system. And that ought to fix that. So then the joined ones are now going to be missing, which is unless we add them. So let's add them. So we'll do a for each joined one. Do I select it? I'm going to select it. Joined, select. And I'm just going to grab the info object off of it. And we're just going to say the plugin set, register the plugin info. And then that should make our test pass. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. Programming in Egyptian hieroglyphs? No, Simon. No. I am not. Yes, I am not that guy. That guy... no, Jujubox, we're not going to do that, but that is a great suggestion. And yes, it looks basically like what the Grumpy Game Dev is suggesting there. Yeah, so the test passes. Yeah, sorry. So I wanted to explain what that code was. We need to refactor it. So the test pass. That's why I said we're going to come back to it and fix it. Like, I just want to get the test passing, and then we'll have a look. Okay. Okay, so this is kind of like, yeah, so make test pass, come back and refactor in a minute. That's always the way that I want to do things. This is not returning back value tuples. We need if it found it, we just need the type. We don't need the folder name anymore. So let's just return back the plugin info, not the folders. So we don't actually need that. So folder can disappear. So this is easier than I thought. So that's just a list of the folders now, so we don't have this concept. So the plugin info, so I'm going to simplify this. These are like the plugins that are here. Found plugins. Yeah, so we're just going to say for each one of these, we'll just do that. And then, so this is the folders except for, we're not going to take the folder, it's going to be the location. Location would match with the folder name. And then on this one, it is except for the plugins that we actually found. Which that should be a little easier. Okay. So we still need to extract, but I did a little bit of the cleanup of that, and then we are going to, yes. Why don't we say matched plugins? Let's run the tests, and then we'll keep refactoring. But I just want to do it as a small change. Yes, exactly. I'm going to extract method, and then I think it'll be a little bit clearer. Yeah. So Grumpy Game Dev. There's an interface, but I wouldn't say solid just yet. That's what we're getting to at this point. We want to get them wired up and initializing and everything. Technically, our simple commands is one of our plugins right now, but we're not to the point where I would suggest people go make a bunch of plugins yet. Though we're getting much closer. Okay, so. I'm going to extract this as a method, and we're going to call it check for matched plugins. So that'll check to see if we have matched plugins. And then this is, which actually, funny enough, we did the registration. Why don't we call it register complete plugins? And then we will do this as a method that is create. This is the new ones, right? Yes. create records for new plugins. So that's create records for new plugins, and this is maybe flag missing plugins. So we did that. Set plugin info is missing. Yeah. JujuBox, thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. I'll take that to mean that you've enjoyed what we've been doing here on the stream. So thank you and welcome. Okay, did I miss anything? Oh, you'll wait. Yes, exactly. Yep. That is absolutely correct. The Grumpy Game Dev. Our interface is not solid. It is like jiggly jello. You're gonna want to wait. Not only is the interface not solid, there's also no real infrastructure being passed to a plugin. There is some. It can register at this point. I think Simon, it can get dependencies sent to it. So that's how the simple that's how our simple commands actually works. It is actually sending that data right now, but yeah, there's a little bit of trickiness with it. Let's see if this still works. I don't think we broke anything, but run test just to be certain. I'm going to add a to-do to where we do that matching logic, where we match up the database found records with the file system, because that is not correct yet. I'm just going to add a quick to-do that just says we need to actually make that, like, do its job. So register complete plugins. This is to-do. Match these on more than just folder name is consistent. And this, I think, is where we would validate that it is correct. Or maybe we validate on register? I'm not sure. We're gonna have to think about that. Good luck, Simon. Good luck. Hopefully it's going well. Okay. And so I think when we register a plugin, now the question is when do we start them is gonna be the real kicker. So we're gonna have to figure that out. Okay, let's do a quick we're going to run profile 1 cleanup on the project real fast. View models, initialize. Okay. It's moving that, creating those. All right, I'm gonna do a whip plugin initialization. Plugin initialization. I will commit that to our plugins branch. So we are, the branch we're working on is the branch that actually makes our plugins actually be like, you know, plugin. You drop it in and it starts running it kind of thing. So that is what this one is intended to do. So we'll see how that goes. You're running the Evercraft kata for your team at work. Oh yeah, I think you mentioned that in a previous stream, Grumpy Game Dev. Thursday was the first day they made it to almost applying stat bonuses to damage and armor classes. Nice! Yeah, it's been fun. We've been working on it in the stream here. So my plan is to get this to the state where when we've completed the plugin stuff, that's when I'm gonna jump back over onto our work on the Evercraft kata here on the stream as well. So the goal being that yes, Grumpy Game Dev, once this piece is done, I'm hoping that it is solid enough on that interface that we can say that yes, if you want to build a plugin for this, it is stable enough for you to try. That's kind of the idea. Exactly. Hashtag make the fart bot. Yep. So once we get plugins working, even though we're going to be missing a bunch of other features and other things like that, we want to get to the point where like a plugin works and you could build one, and as long as you're depending on it, it would work. So, yep, that's the idea. JujuBox, you've been thinking about making a bot, and quite a lot of C# and you just have no idea where to start and never touch the APIs for the online services. So JujuBox, you can, so first off, there are a lot of places you can look for how to do that, including our YouTube and everything else like that, which you can find links to down below the stream that will tell you. So we have done that in a variety of capacities on the stream, including what Grumpy Game Dev mentions, first off, I would take a look at TwitchLib as it's the easiest way to get started. TwitchLib is a library that gives you access to the API and Twitch chat and things like that, and is maintained by some of the people in the Twitch streaming community. And they're doing a rewrite of that. So there are a few devs that are working on changing how the TwitchLib library works, but right now that is the way I would recommend anybody starting. Just take a look, because then you don't have to learn the whole API right away. If you want to go and write directly against the API, you can. It is just a web API, so you can just talk to it, and that's fine. And the chat's a little bit more complicated, but again, there's documentation on how to do that, and you can read about it on the Twitch documentation site. And there are also a lot of people in the community that can help as well. But again, it just depends on what you want to dive into. And if you are just thinking that the bot is an easy way to do chat interactivity, you are also welcome to make plugins for this one if you want as well, and that is also fine. And yes, as the Grumpy Game Dev mentions there, the API itself is a bit of a moving target. So since I've been writing bots there, they have gone through a few versions of their API. They shifted around. The API is fairly consistent while they're on a version, but we've gone and they have deprecated all the old APIs that we used to run a lot of stuff against. There's also a number of things are features that are really needed by us in the API that are undocumented features that they sometimes work. Yeah, they tell you what changed by just having it not work. So the API, we love that they have the API, because you definitely need to be able to build these kinds of interactions into Twitch. But yeah, so the short answer here is, if you are interested in digging into these APIs, the answers are you can check out our YouTube videos here. You can also check out archives of videos that we've got here. And if you can also look at I can't even count how many of the Live Coders team have people working on chatbots, and a number of them are going to be doing C#. So Fierce Kittens does some of that, so you can take a look at hers. I'm sure that Fritz has them, C# Fritz has them in his archive. So that's like C# Fritz. I'm sure he has episodes in his archive, and Fierce Kittens. If I didn't typo their names, they both have them as well. So there are a lot of people out there that build chatbots. It's one of the things that so people often are like, why are you building chatbot? Why is everybody building chatbots? And part of the reason why is you need a chatbot. You are a developer, you can build your own. At the same time, there's also, we want to interact with our chat. So gives an opportunity for you to interact with your chat because you can ask them to try the features. It also gives them fun games for them to play while they're in the chat. So we have done like some overlay stuff where like you can play Hangman in our chat. Our bot's off right now, so you can't. But like that's one of the things that you can do, and it just pops up a little Hangman game up on the chat while you're playing. Also, the Grumpy Game Dev can change the color of these lights on the stream. So that the color changing thing is something that we actually just did in like a one short stream, and that is actually running as a system tray only WinForms application, which when you tell people it's WinForms, it's like, wait, what? I'm like, well, it has no UI, so why does it matter? So WinForms system tray only. It's really cool. And yes, so Desert Griffin, if you're a lazy developer and you just want to borrow someone else's bot, that's what we're trying to build here. We're trying to build a bot that is customizable, but like, so it's customizable without writing code. So you can write code, but you don't have to write code. So the idea is that if you really like the Grumpy Game Dev's like, what is it? Like, I forget what you called it. Like the fart bot thing, Fartbot. Yeah, there you go. So if you really think that that's the coolest feature, you can add that plugin in and just use it. And if you want to add in so like if we build a game for playing Hangman on your stream and you just want to include that, you can just grab that. You don't need to have a bot that just includes that feature, and it's not like a turn the feature on, turn the feature off. It's not even installed, it's not even there unless you decide to grab it. So that's the idea. So we want to actually make it like plugin based. So we'll see how that goes. Either way, this is about where I wanted to wrap the stream. So I think we got a good number of things sort of wired together there. Had some good discussions. Before anyone takes off, though, let me see who is currently live on the Twitch. So please don't go anywhere. I want to mention a couple of things, and thank you for that follow, Adrift. Much appreciated. We always like it when new members of the community jump in and follow the stream, and I will be back on Monday, most likely, to do our next stream, so there will be no Sunday stream this weekend, but I will see you all on Monday for our regular stream time, which, if you take a look at your clock and subtract 2 hours and 15 minutes, that is when we start our stream on Monday. We will also have a stream on Tuesday, and then subtract 4 hours and 15 minutes to get our stream start time on Thursday. So we do streams on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and that is at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, noon on Eastern Time, and 1 p.m. on Eastern Time, and that is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Okay, let's roll our credits, and I will see who's around to raid. So I want to make sure that I thank everyone for hanging out today and having great conversations with us. We had a lot of good stuff happen. I want to make sure that I thank Stoolpenner for helping to moderate the chat while we were here today. I want to thank all these wonderful people who clicked that follow button. So if you are one of those people that clicked that, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you on our next episode. And I want to thank Nate for resubscribing to our channel for, he's almost his 2-year resub. So I want to make sure that if any of you are wanting to catch our streams in the future, click the follow button, or you can join our Discord down below, which is also a great way to have discussions with the rest of the community. So if you want to chat with me or the other Chattosauruses here in the DevChatter community, our Discord is a great place to do it, and you can find links to that as well as archives of all of our old videos going back about 2.5 years down below the stream. So links, as always, available. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out today. I look forward to seeing all of you in our next stream on Monday. Have a great rest of your weekend, and happy coding. Bye, everyone.